Greetings. This video has been prepared to introduce the non-student traveler to our Israel Initiative, that is Shepherd Seminary's study trip to Israel, which is provided with donor funds to our students. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit about that as I go, but I want to do something else first of all. I'm going to begin with the the details, the tall grass. But what I want to do is take you to, I want to show you how to access the website, which is going to be very, very important, both as you prepare and even in the course of the trip. So we have a website. It's on a system called Moodle with an M. And you get to it by simply, you can go to any browser and you're going to type in thewestinstitute.moodlehub.com. Now it's there on my screen, but I'm going to type it in. So thewestinstitute.moodlehub.com. You go there and it's going to take you to this screen. And you're going to want to go down to Shepherd's Theological Seminary. So click there, and it will take you to, there are a number of courses and so on. There's lots going on here, but all you have to worry about is this one right here. I think it'll show up right there, but look for STS Israel Initiative Study Trip, July 22. Now, this same will apply for later trips, and we'll use this same video, but find find the course which matches the trip you're taking. So we're looking forward to July 22. You click on that, and it will take you into the website. From here, you're going to go to a lot of different places. So hang on for dear life. Now, at some point, you are going to have to. I should turn editing off here. At some point, you're going to have to submit an enrollment key. And that enrollment key, I'm going to make sure while I sit here, that enrollment key should be, watch this. It's right here. It should be, yes, STS 2022. So for this trip, the enrollment key, and at some point you're going to be asked for this in order to get access to it. And I'm not sure exactly when. Oh, and I should say, I'm doing this poorly, but you'll also be asked to register. When you click, you'll be asked to register. You'll give it a name, your name, and you will give it you'll be asked for a password. Remember that password. But honestly, once you have established the password, I think it'll let you in time after time once you've registered and so on. But then as you get into the course itself, again, you're going to go to Shepherd's Theological Seminary, find the trip you're going to be on, and it'll open here. I think at this point, it'll ask you to register. Now, let me point out a number of very important dynamics or elements of this website. So stay with me if you will. Big is this general information. And there are a number of documents. This is the calendar. Now it takes a moment to come up, so I'm going to take you there. But well, let's do this. If I do this, I can show you how it works. So let's say you wanted to download the calendar. So it's right here. You click on it, and it will come up in the Moodle platform. It's rather clunky and not too easy to use, but notice it says download file here. So you simply click download file. It's not difficult. And here it's on my machine, it's downloaded here. It may download somewhere else, but then you open the file. Now this is going to take just a moment. I've already got it open, but we'll have another one here. But the point is that that's how you will open any one of these documents, is just click on it and then download it to your machine. It'll come in a doc file. All right, so here it is. I can enable editing so I can look around. And this is the trip calendar. Now, let me point out to you that there is a lot of material here. Not only do you have the calendar and just a lot of material, but you also have, yeah, I think all of this is accurate, and I'll highlight some. Well, let me just point out a couple things. I've got it in front of you. Number one, we don't do air. I think you know that. You have to get your own air, and your requirement is simply that you show up in Tel Aviv and come to the airport, the Gilgal. I'm sorry, you land at the airport, come to the hotel, the Gilgal Hotel, and be there by 6 o'clock on Saturday. I'm sorry. This is when you leave on Sunday, July 3rd. Now, a couple points. Number one, do not be intimidated by the fact that, number one, you got to get your own way. Listen, there's only one international airport in Israel. It's hard to get this wrong. If you fly to Israel, when you get off the airplane, you're at Ben Gurion. Now, Ben Gurion, it says it's in Tel Aviv. It's actually about 20, 25 miles from Tel Aviv. But at any rate, all you do, and this is all explained down here, and there's more explanation in your in some of the other material. But I have a section here, getting from the airport to the first night's hotel. Let me just say that the easy way, I recommend it. You can get shuttles. They're really no cheaper. And if you're late, if there's any problem, then it becomes they have a very good and dependable and honest taxi system. And you just get your luggage. All right, let me talk about that. When you arrive at the airport, don't leave the luggage, the place where you pick up your luggage. Don't leave there until you're all together. So if you're with a group, a family, a couple, whatever it is, once you leave the baggage area, you cannot return. And so you can kind of lose touch. So just gather, it's big, there are restrooms there are places to sit down, and just everybody get your luggage, then leave together, all right? You'll go through customs, the guy will be eating a sandwich, he won't even look at you, okay? So just go on through customs. Now, when you come out into the reception hall there at the airport, walk straight across the very nice reception hall, out the door, down the sidewalk, and when you get to the street, turn left, and there's the taxi stand. And they'll accommodate you very, very nicely, and you'll be assigned a taxi, and the more it's going to be a little cheaper if you fill a taxi, and if you have 6 or 7, they'll find you a van, that sort of thing. But the point is, and then you'll give them this address right here of the Gilgal Hotel, and that's the owner. They'll probably know it, but they'll get you there. It's going to cost somewhere around $25 a person, $25, $30 a person. I know that's an expense, but let me tell you something. All right, I'm going to give you my rationale. Number one, I don't do air because it is the single greatest administrative balagan and headache in putting a trip together, and there's no reason for it. You can get your own, like I say, it's hard to get it wrong. You can choose your own day. And by the way, I should say that I say optional early departure date. We, on Monday morning, early, we are going to be on a bus and off we go. Now, you have to be there by Sunday night, because our first meeting will be this introduction and preview about 6 o'clock on Sunday night. Now, if you leave on Saturday and get in on Sunday, whatever time, sometimes early in the morning, you're going to have a little time, but not a great deal of time to get your feet under you. And I might as well warn you, if you get in at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, you're almost certainly not going to be able to get into your hotel room. I don't know where that came from. You're not going to be able to get into your hotel room until probably 3 in the afternoon. Now, on the other hand, you because you're making your own flights, you are welcome to come early. Now, if you do that, know that you've got to get a hold of the Gilgal Hotel. All the information is here. They love us. They work with us. And so you're responsible to make sure you've got that extra night booked, and of course to pay for that extra night. So at any rate, now you're going to cover the cost of your entire trip in this case, but nonetheless, the point is simply that you will send us money to cover the cost of the trip. That doesn't work, but in gray here. But if you stay an extra night, if you stay the night of July 1st, then you're going to have to pay that one-on-one with the airport. All right, so I'm saying that, not with the airport, with the hotel. But I'm saying that number one, you are advantaged to get your own air because you can come a day early if you want. You can use the airline of your choice. You can put it on your credit card and get the miles for it. You can, there's just a number of ways in which you are advantaged. One of the nice things is that if you, in fact, book your travel and you use any sort, you'd have to check very, very closely. But many of the, what do I want to say, the upgraded credit cards, the ones you have to pay for, you have an early annual fee of $60 or whatever. In many cases, they have built-in travel insurance, and you should check on that because I recommend that you get travel protection. But on the other hand, you may not have to pay for it. It may be built into your credit card. One other note, just because it occurs to me, if you do buy travel insurance, don't cover the cost of the trip because you'll get the money back if you don't go. You only have to cover the cost. It's an insurance policy, which in case you at the last minute you're not able to go, or there are delays along the way and you have to stay an extra night in a hotel, it covers that sort of thing. But in most cases, most groups, if you don't, it's 30 days before departure. If you cancel the trip, if you back out of the trip that time, you don't get any money back from the provider. Not so here. If you have to back out for any purposes, the reason is quite simply that we don't spend your money until we get to Israel. And almost every case, there's some exceptions to that, but I think we can handle it. All right, so I'm saying you get your own air and you have to contrive, schedule yourself to get in at least by Sunday, July 3rd, in time to be at the hotel in the evening. Or if you like, come a day early. Another advantage to that is that we don't do anything in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is it was sand dunes in 1909. So it's an entirely modern city. It does include Joppa, where Jonah fled to get away from God's call, and where Peter was on a rooftop when God spoke to him about Cornelius. And Joppa is a stroll away, a half-hour stroll right down the walkway on the Mediterranean. So it's very, very nice. And that would give you time to do that. And there are other things to do there in Tel Aviv. And just to get your feet under you, might want to think about that. On the other hand, here's the big issue. Our trip is 10 study days. Now, what I mean by that is 10 days where we get up in the morning and we go to bed at night in Israel. One caveat. The last night, we actually go to bed on an airplane. Now, what I'm saying is that we have 10 full study days, but we schedule the trip so that we leave late on Wednesday, July 13th. And the beauty of that is that we do get the study day, and it's a day that you get a good deal of time for shopping and so on, but we don't have to spend the money for that hotel room. We're trying to save money here. And so this day we will have a full day, but then we'll gather for a farewell dinner, head for the airport. And therefore, I'm asking you to work very hard to schedule your departure late, close to midnight. And there are a number of carriers that do have flights out around 11:10, 12:05, even 1 o'clock in the morning. So if you can schedule yourself either very late on July 13th or very early on Thursday, and I'm talking 1 in the morning, what we will do is, rather than having to get cabs and so on to go back to the airport, we'll get a bus. And we'll have to cover the cost of that. That is be about $20 a traveler, but we'll get a bus and we'll go down to the airport, and then we'll just go our separate ways as far as the various airlines and so on, and find your way home. So do everything you can to, now again, it's Wednesday, July 13th, late midnight or early the 14th. If you leave later in the day on the 14th, it gets uncomfortable. If it's about, a lot of them are about 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have to get up by about 3 o'clock to get to the airport. So do you want to pay for that extra night in a hotel? Maybe not. So maybe you go to the airport, you just sleep on a bench, for 4 or 5 hours. It's best if we can leave at, like I say, very close to midnight. So if you can contrive to do that, it will be helpful. All right, what else to say here? I guess I make that note a couple of times, but this is the itinerary. Let me just tell you that this is a legitimate, no kidding around, muscled up, heritage chest, blue ribbon, top drawer, grade A study trip. This is a study trip. And one of the points that I make all right, let me go back to what else I was doing. So I'm going to go back to the Moodle site and right here. So again, you have typed in the westinstitute.moodlehub.com. You have registered, you find yourself at this site right here. That is, you've clicked on the appropriate tile. I'll do that quick once again. Here it is. So you hit Israel trip. And this is when it'll ask you, I think, right about this time, it'll ask you for the enrollment key, which is STS 2022. And then you have access. Now, here's something else. Here's what I just showed you, the calendar. There's also the class syllabus doesn't apply to you. There is a class. Students are taking this for credit. But there is a document called Programs and Protocols. And I would ask you to survey this. Now, again, I have it open here. And so rather than going through this is what it looks like. Well, and I've already made most of the points here. I spend a good deal of time, and this document spends a good deal of time trying to really make the case that this trip represents a really stunningly important stewardship. It's on a part of the students especially. Again, our obligation as a seminary is to equip people to handle the Word of God. They have enrolled at the seminary to thus equip themselves. Whatever resources are available, we ought to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, as Jesus says in Matthew 10:16. And so whatever resources are available to us, we ought to make full proof of those. And here these students have been provided at our cost. We've raised the money to get them there. That's how seriously we believe in this. So we ask them to work very, very hard at it. And not only on the trip, but in preparation. Now, that I think applies as well to those of you who join us as non-students. On a couple of counts, it's important that you buy into this stewardship dynamic. And to that degree, we ask you to do some prep work. So I have here highlighted just for this expectation of those participating. And I talk about the students who they'll have a lot of pre-work, a lot of pre-study work. It's heavy duty. But then we also say here, I say non-student travelers are expected to participate in the state classroom lectures. All right, we're not insisting. I'll show those to you in a minute. I'd invite you to, but there are a couple of levels of participation, and even for you. And so you won't have to report it. It's just, we would ask you, and it's not only for your own good, to be honest with you. Listen, I say this somewhere in this document, but the fact is that I put together a lot of seminary trips over the years. And quite frankly, the standard is 3 weeks. Generally, it's a 3-week trip. But we are trying to get the cost down. And we can cut the cost by over a third if we go to 2 weeks. And I know that in those 3-week trips, they're able to do more than we're able to do in the 2 week, but we cover the land. We do what is necessary to do in order to equip people to understand, equip those travelers to understand the stage, the physical stage on which the drama of the historical narrative of the Bible was played out. But my point is this: I know that on those 3-week trips, they have full days that are set aside for lectures. So they'll sit in the classroom and they'll lecture, and then they'll go they'll go visit the region that they just lectured on. That's wonderful. We want to do that before we go. So our intent is to introduce our travelers to the land before we leave. Now, there's another dynamic here, and I like to say it this way. It's a little bit silly, but it's really kind of a shame you have to go to Israel the first time. It's going to be overwhelming. And it would be better if you could skip the first time and go the second time. But I don't know how to do that except this. What you need to do is learn the land before you go. And we are providing you with a lot of resources, I'm going to take you there in just a moment to equip yourself so that the land is not brand new to you when we get there. And so maybe now it's not like we're going to skip a lot of stuff. We still have to cover it, but you know that repetition is at least the mother, if not the godfather of learning. I mean, I don't know if we get, and so very few of us get it on the first time. So at any rate, now let me take you back to the I'm going to take you back here. Stop share. Hold on here. I want to make sure I'm sharing this. So share screen. I don't want to share this screen. All right, I did it wrong. Here we are. All right, now let me take you back to this. Now watch this. I'm doing this by fits and starts. Forgive me, but I'm not going to do it over. So here's what's at stake. Wait a minute. I didn't do it. Now I've done it. Okay, so we're sharing the screen. All right, and we're sharing. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen, and I don't think I am. Share screen, screen 3. All right, I'm going to assume I am, because that's what it says. All right, now, there are some other items here. Remember where we are. This is the opening screen. You start with general information. You've got your itinerary. You've got these program and protocol that I asked you to read. This first note to travelers, I'm not going to take you there, but it's very, there's a lot of information there. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of information about travel, about electricity, about monies, changing the shekels, about laundry, about packing. There's also a suggested packing list here. Now, I will just tell you, I included, even though there's a great deal of redundancy, you might look at both of them. There is also this document right here called important travel information. It's a lot of, it's redundant to the first note, but I'm trying to answer as many possible questions I possibly can. All right, and now then, so that's what you can load just to start to get ready for the trip, logistically and so on. On the other hand, this is information we desperately need from you. We need your contact information. Open it up. It'll ask you for your address, your phone number, your email, and so on. Emergency contact who we get a hold of, passport, and we like a copy of your passport because you don't want to lose your passport. I've told students in the past that if you lose your passport, long experience has told us that the easiest thing to do is just to shoot you, because there's going to be less paperwork and a headache getting out of Israel if we shoot you. I'm being a little facetious there, a whole lot, but secure your passport, have a copy of it. If you send us a copy and something happens, we can maybe use that at the embassy and so on if we had to fight through that. We like your flight information, and I give you a place just to put in where what airline and when you're arriving, and then when you're departing. That's all I care about. When you're showing up, because again, we don't worry about you till you get there. But if you're supposed to be there and we don't see you, it'd be handy to know when you're supposed to be coming in. We can check on that flight and so on. We do ask you to download this waiver of responsibility, sign it with a witness, and then upload it once again. And you just have to take a picture of it, and you can electronically upload it to that spot. And then there are some other various items of information, but it is imperative that you go to this site, Moodle, that you register and that you certainly access some of that information, but give us your information. We are also, I think, and I'm just as a heads up, I'm told that I can do this, and I haven't figured it out yet, but I would like to have a site where all of our passengers are listed and you upload a picture. And if we ask you for a picture, we don't want your grandchildren, we don't want your dog, we don't want an avatar, we want an identifiable portrait picture, because it's going to be so important when we're there to learn one another's names. And it's helpful if we can refresh our memory by secretly saying, oh, I don't know, oh, there she is, I remember her. So that's the rationale. Now, all right, I'm going to be done. There's a lot else here, and we'll cover some of those. But notice this is the list of assignments that our students have to, our students, the ones who are traveling as STS students, whether they're taking it for credit or not, they are responsible for all of this. There is a book that I would exhort you to get a hold of and read. Now, I clicked away long enough to find this book, and it's all explained there on the website. But it's called the Satellite Bible Atlas. The best place to buy it is here at BiblePlaces.com, and just go there and look for the Satellite Bible Atlas. Listen, this book, I cannot overstate how important and helpful it is. Now, having said that, I'm going to make just a bit of a confession. I say confession, full disclosure. This book was put together over many years by one of my dearest friends and closest colleagues with whom I worked for 20-some years, named Bill Schlegel. It is magisterial on 2, barely 3 counts. This is not the full disclosure book. It's magisterial as a Bible atlas. It does what you desperately need to have done for you. Now, Bible atlases can get in a lot of inside baseball, tall grass, minutia type stuff, all good, but that's not what we're after. We just want to understand how the geography, the topography, the regions and routes and so on set the stage for the biblical narrative, how they play into the biblical narrative, how the narrative is shaped by all those elements of geography. And Bill is absolutely expert at making that connection. So number 1 is a Bible atlas. Number 2, and this is huge, folks, I want you to get this. Number 2, it is as good a Bible survey as you will find. You want to just trace the narrative. Now, it doesn't get into the various epistles and so on, but just trace the historical narrative from Genesis all the way through Bar Kokhba. Now, you're not remembering Bar Kokhba, but Bar Kokhba was the second Jewish revolt that happened in 132 AD, in other words, 100 years after Christ died and ascended. But the fact is that what we're going to be seeing, what we're going to be examining, especially in the area of Jerusalem, is so much a function of that revolt. So, but at any rate, the really important element is this, that you have this really well-crafted survey, historical survey, written by somebody who believes the Bible in all of its parts, and who has done the study necessary to really communicate and Bill, one of his greatest strengths in my mind was, and I'll tell you why I use the past tense in a moment, but one of his greatest strengths was his capacity to tease out what was really important, both in the geography and the narrative. So first of all, is an atlas, which is so important that you get your arms around it. And secondly, that is the geography and the regions and so on. And secondly, as a Bible survey, and the two are just expertly, deliciously wed together. What he does, and you can see it on these pages, is he gives you on one side, he gives you the story itself, explains it and so on. Then he traces the map on the other side of the page. And I'm going to say again, he does such a fine job. And so now, I said full disclosure. The fact is that about 3 years ago, my dear friend Bill Schlegel apostatized. He announced that he no longer is a Trinitarian. He doesn't believe in the deity of Jesus and so on. And all that's been handled graciously, futilely, And he's been, in my mind, sort of consigned to 2 Timothy 2 and verses 23 and 24. But the book is good. The book is really, it's peerless for what we're trying to do. So to go back to it, we ask you, we demand that the students get that. I am imploring you, I am exhorting you, order the book and read it carefully. Now, you can augment your reading by number one, watch the videos. He made 16 videos. Bill lived over there for many years. His son became very adept at a drone. And so he made all of these wonderful videos, and most of them are keyed to the book. So you open these videos and hold on here. Oh. Read the introduction. So the introduction, okay. Pre-trip assignment. Why is that not opening up? That's the quiz. Read the sub. There are the quizzes. All right, now I'll go back and check this. Why that is not opening to those videos, I am entirely unsure. Let me check one thing here. No. But I'm going to, I'll fix it. This will open to the videos. And as a matter of fact, all right, I'm sorry. This is unrehearsed, as you might be able to tell. But actually, when you click on this, it opens this paragraph, and you have to go down to this sublink right here, study trip preparatory resource. I'm not exactly sure why I did it this way, but if you go there, I'm going to bring you back here again. Here are those Schlegel videos. So you click on that, and you get all of these videos. For instance, here is a video that gives you the Jerusalem approaches from the south. And so that corresponds to the Satellite Bible Atlas, to that reference. So it's best, I think, when you can just match these corresponding. So when you get to when you get to a certain section in the atlas in your reading, check and see if there's not a video for that. And I'll click on this, and what happens again is it gives me a link, and this should open. Yeah, there it is on. And you never know what you're getting.
This video is commentary for the Satellite Bible Atlas.
So this is Bill, and he makes these videos, and you can watch them right here.
Map
you can
1-8, focusing on the southern approaches to Jerusalem.
They're really
this
well
event
done.
is marked on map 5-3. David brought down.
So he's talking about various.
On map 2-2.
He's talking about various biblical incidents when approach was made and so on. Oftentimes at the end, he will include
in 2007,
outtakes.
archaeologists announced that
which is the traditional place where Jesus was born. So we're still in Bethlehem, and you can see behind me a modern marketplace, and we're in the probable site of the Old Testament Bethlehem, which is where King David was from.
So he'll often do that. He led IBEX students all over the land, and so I'm going to leave it alone. Suffice it to say, I'm going to go back now. And all the way back to, yeah, here is where we were. So what am I talking to you about? I'm saying to you, non-student travelers, I'm begging you, number one, get the atlas, read it. You can enhance your reading by taking the quizzes. There are quizzes here, and you can just click on it and go through, and it'll tell you how you did and so on. Any way you can nail down the very basic but important geographical and historical and topographical and all the elements that are so well presented in that text, in that Bible Atlas, that Satellite Bible Atlas. Work at it. All right, so that's the Bible Atlas, and use the videos as well. Now, beyond that, there are a number of unspeakably boring videos, one of which you're watching right now, the one that I have on the screen. And all of these, if you have the time, I think given the fact that you are going to Israel, that again, I trust you understand that you're going to be hugely advantaged, and the trip is going to be so much more worthwhile. If you've done some pre-work, you've got your arms around some ideas. So I welcome you to watch these videos. There are a lot of them. You can trace them yourself. They're again, they're yeah, they open up right here. What is that?
These days have. I mean, most phones,
Yeah,
most
okay.
systems, whatever you have, probably have.
Now, as I say, that's I happen to hit on logistical matters, but you have Bible geography. There's a lot here, but these are videos that I made. I'll just tell you, I used to teach a class, and I'd have to do it every year, and because it wasn't exactly a class, we'd meet like on a few Saturdays. Nobody came anyway. And so they'd watch the recording. So I thought, well, I'll just put it on the Moodle. So here they are. These are the lectures that comprise the class that prepares people for Israel. And let me just say, well, one other thing. You know, no, two other things. Let me do this one first. There's another, if you go back, and by the way, the default when you are in Moodle and you want to get out of what you're in is to back arrow, not to exit. The exit, you got to re-enter. But I go back, and here I am on the West Institute. Now I want you to notice something. Again, this is where you will be brought once you click on that tile. And notice right here, there is another link, and it's go down a little ways. It says alternative site. Now, I take several, I take a lot of trips to Israel, and I have uploaded a great deal of information, various miscellaneous, some serious, some fun, and so on, just to help people find stuff to prepare their hearts and minds for a trip. And it's here, and I'm adding stuff to this all the time. So you go to this alternative site right here, and oh no, I'm sorry. This won't get you there. So am I still in the, yeah. So here you go down to this study trip preparatory resources. Now it opens up another Moodle site. I used to try and put this up for every trip I took, and I thought that's crazy. I'm keep adding stuff. I gotta add also. So this is, and it's a lot of redundancy. So here you have the Schlegel videos. This is where we had to come. I even put these stateside course preparation videos in case some of my non-STS, in other words, when I take trips that aren't related to the seminary, they might want to watch it. Alan Plumley, a dear friend, pastor in Connecticut, has gone, is planning to go with me, I think the 4th time. And he's a tremendous student, and he's a genius to be sure. He works in the defense industry, but he is also a pastor of a church, and he put together a very nice series of videos. It's a Bible geography course, and he uses a lot of our stuff and a lot of Bill's stuff and so on. And of an evening, couple of evenings, sit and watch those. They're hugely helpful. Now I have a lot on the modern state of Israel, folks. Our focus clearly, deliberately, but not exclusively, is on the historical setting, the biblical, Israel in the biblical eras as the stage of the biblical narrative. But everywhere we go, we're going to have to be stripping away layers, and we'll see many times many layers in front of us. You got the modern era, and then you got the Ottoman era, and then you got the Crusader era, then you got the Muslim era, then you got the Byzantine era, then you got the Roman era, then you got the New Testament era, usually about part of, then you got the intertestamental and the Greek and the Persian, and then you get back to the Old Testament. Now, the point is, and I left out a point I wanted to emphasize, so I'm going to do it here. When I was talking about the importance of reading Bill's Bible Atlas, and I said, it's such a good Bible survey, and folks, there is nothing more important to maximizing this trip than a good, solid grasp of the biblical narrative. So that when I talk about the period of the judges, you don't have to stop and think, what the period of judges? I remember a couple of them, but where does that fit? No, you know where it fits. When I talk about a David, and then I talk about Zerubbabel, and then I talk about Abraham, You can put those in chronological order in your head that quick. You know who came when. That's a function of the narrative, and the atlas is a huge help to that. But my point is that we're going to have to do that throughout our travels. We're going to have to be talking about this point, not just the biblical narrative. That's what the atlas is, but then you got those later, and I'll give you some notes on that and so on. So at any rate, I get a lot on the history of the modern state of Israel, and there's quite a bit here, and that's just a heading. But Prager does a lot of videos. I've got miscellaneous videos that are some fascinating, some on warfare, some on the culture, and so on. I've got a whole there's a section on the modern Israeli conflict, Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I'm not going to try. Just have some fun with it. I'll tell you what, Dave McManus, dear friend, pastors in Indianapolis, but he's gone with me several times, and he put together a series of lessons, basically building on a really helpful book by Mike Rydelnik called I think it's called the Arab Jewish-Palestinian conflict. And Dave put together a series of 4 lessons, and it'll really bring you, it'll help you understand. Then I've got all sorts of miscellaneous. Joel Kramer, how I love Joel Kramer. You can't get close to, I didn't mean to say that. The fact is, you can't get too close. It still comes out wrong. Get close to Joel Kramer. Become his student via his videos. He's got a new project where every week he puts out another short video. You can find him on sourceflix.com. Oh, such good stuff. Such a dear brother. And on staff at our seminary and heading up our archaeology department. And then a lot of video tours. Just people upload, and I can easily just link it here and so on. I do have a lot of stuff on the life of Christ that's not quite as germane, but because I spent a lot of time in the life of Christ, so there are some resources there. So what am I saying to you? Let's go back. We go back to the site you're going to, all right, I'm going to do it one more time. So we go to the West Institute, and we click on Shepherd's Theological Seminary, and we find this tile right here, July 2022. Now you have to register. You go through the registry. You know, it involves, you know, they send a note to your phone or something like that, or email, and you verify, and then you're in. You make your own password. Now you're in for good. And here you have, this is where you're going to come. These are, they're not germane at this point. This is just general information, the itinerary, the program and protocol, the logistical stuff, the packing list, and so on. And then what we need from you: contact, emergency, passport, waiver of responsibility. Then you have down here is this alternative site where you can go to, where you can go to access those alternative resources. I'm going to try it one more time. So we went here. No, I'd opened it up. All right. And then there are also, number one, what I'm asking of you is, number one, most important, read, learn it, love it, live it, the Bible Atlas. All right. And do all that you can to really get your arms around that it gets his arms around you. And then there are all sorts of other opportunities to learn the land before you go. You have these video lectures, which are basically the class we teach. You're welcome to those. You can go over to the alternative site and all sorts of fun stuff. A lot of it you'll really enjoy. And I think all of it you'll enjoy, but some of it is just mind candy, you know, so, and some of it's even eye candy. So, all right, I'm going to leave you alone. I was going to say, make one other point, and that is this, that I never finished this thought, that we have two types, two categories of non-student travelers. One is the ministry partner. And for you, we offer the trip to you at a staggeringly reasonable cost, not just reasonable. It's $1,500. Now that does not include your lunches. We don't cover lunches, and I'll get into why, but I'm too long. But it doesn't make any sense for us to try and buy your lunch. We have to buy what do I want to say, vouchers. And then you have to go to a restaurant where the voucher is honored. It's just a nuisance. So, and a lot of kids trying to save some money, they'll pack a little, something from the breakfast menu and eat it and so on. But my point is, the cost for the ministry partner is $1,500. And we offer that to, as I say, people in ministry. And I'll be quite frank with you, I never made this point, that we hope to make a friend for the seminary. We are one factor in determining, does this make sense for us to invite this person is, well, could he be a help to us as a seminary? We need a neighborhood. We need people who love us and support us. So we would ask you to ponder that. And but nonetheless, we don't really take that over much into consideration. We're considering it. There are many of you, there are some of you, I think, and many of you in the course of this video, as it's used for later trips, who are coming as ministry partners. Welcome. We love to have you. But there are also those who we call donor partners. And quite simply, these are folks who are able to afford a market price. It's still a stunningly good price. But we ask you to come for our price this year is $3,200. Now, what you need to know is that by paying that $3,200, you're going to bring a seminary student. And we have to raise this. And we have discovered that one of the happiest, kind of serendipitous, unanticipated providences is that we started bringing these donor partners. And I think last time we had 11 donor partners. That means 11 students that we don't have to raise the money for. The land cost, your cost, that $3,200 will cover not only your cost, but a seminary student. So we're thrilled to have you. One other point that needs to be made, and I do make this point, and I could probably find it here in the program and protocols, where I make the point that this trip right here will be much more physically demanding than most trips to Israel. I say here that we walk 6 to 7 miles a day. That's mildly conservative. No, it's not all at once, but when we get to Jerusalem, we don't have a bus, we walk. And so you've got to be able to walk. It's imperative. Now, we don't run, we move quickly. We don't tolerate sauntering because we've got a lot of ground to cover. And now the other thing, we normally go, and I'm going to say this just with regard to this one trip, we normally go in December, and there we have to plan for the weather, and we have to deal with the liability of very short days. Now, let me just say this, having said it, there's a reason we go in December. And that is when I approach various hoteliers, friends who own hotels and from whom I rent hotel rooms in the course of the year, I asked them to do something that was unreasonable. I asked them to give us their rooms for this trip at their cost. Don't make any money on that. I said, just give it to it now. The rest of the time when I come, we'll pay market price. That's fine. But would you? And the hotels, and especially one, was just stunningly generous. But I said to him, when I said, I wouldn't ask you to do that when your hotel is full. When is your hotel empty? When are you not going to lose money on us? Because it's pretty empty. And he said, well, come between November and Christmas. Well, that's perfect for us because the semester is over. So normally we go in December. It's a fine time to be in Israel. Weather can be a little dicey, but it's usually so good. Everybody always says, and I've lived in both places, I've been in both places. Israel's weather is a great deal like Southern California. And so this summer it can get cold, you can get rain, and the rain tends to be a little mean-spirited. But by and large, the weather is not a factor. And we don't let it become a factor. We have to cover the ground. The liability in December is the short days. It's 4:45, it's dark. Now, we're going to go on this one trip in July to make up for the 2 years we missed. And now we're going to have to deal with heat. So just make preparation for it. We'll be as circumspect as possible, and we'll do as much lecturing on the air-conditioned bus as we can before we get off. And the heat may not be insufferable, honest to goodness. I've been there in July when it was quite pleasant. I've been there in July when it was downright pleasant. But But we got the long days. We get our days, we get so much more done, and we don't have to hurry quite so much because we got the long days. So, but at any rate, know that you have to be prepared to walk, and it is more physically demanding, and we work hard. If you're not more exhausted coming home than you were when you left, we did something wrong. But you'll find that it's worth it. It's exhilarating. So Lord bless you. Any questions, get a hold of us. Thank you for the time. I didn't mean to be this long, but why make it any longer? So God's best to you, and be much in prayer, both as to the situation in Israel. I should just say a real quick note. Listen, I know that you are going to hear about dust-ups in Israel, about problems, about terrorist attacks on on local Jews and so on, that is native Jews. 2 points. Number one, frankly, if you insist on waiting, you're not going to go to Jerusalem until things are absolutely quiet and there's no reason to be concerned. Help yourself. But King Jesus is going to be waiting there for you to welcome you, okay? It's not happening in this life. Zechariah, cup of trembling. Number two, Israel knows security better than anybody on earth. They are constant, they are careful, they are resourceful. If there are problems, we're not going near there. They're not going to let us near there. So, and I'll tell you, there's another dynamic here that I don't know. I don't want it to be counterproductive, but the fact is that tourism is one of the most important, probably number three at least, important economy or source of income in Israel, and there are far more Arabs and Palestinians and so on engaged in the Arab trade. I'm sorry, in the travel trade than there are Jewish people, and so really there's a pretty definite protocol. You don't go near tourists. They'll always, but I don't want to go any further with it. Suffice it to say, I will not ever twist somebody's arm to talk them into going if they're uneasy due to security concerns. But I'm telling you, you're going to be safer walking the streets of Jerusalem than you would be walking the streets of Chicago. I'll flat guarantee you. And so I'll just leave it with that. Be praying about those issues. Be praying for good, strong health, and I'm going to be praying for moderate weather. I don't. God's in charge, and so it's funny, but when we're there in the winter, we're praying for dry weather, and the Jewish people are all praying for rain because that's the rainy season. They desperately need the rain. So you almost feel like you're at cross purposes. I think God can figure that out. I always say I got the solution. Let the rain come at night. But in the summer, at least we'll all be praying for the same thing, because there's no rain in the summer in Israel, but you're looking for moderate weather. So be much in prayer, and any questions, so on, please get a hold of us. God's best to you. Amen.